Hey there, so I want to take this the next step further, and I want to make it so that we can send an email from our application. And so also want to make some improvements to our user model. But before we do that, let's do a little housekeeping with Git. I'm going to say Git status, and notice this is the information from the past 2 or 3 videos. So I'm going to go ahead and commit this up to Git, and I'm going to try to give a really good message. So I'm going to say git add dot, because we want to add all this stuff in, and then say git commit. Ideally, we would have a commit after each little thing that we do, okay? It's much better to have some smaller commits for each feature that you add instead of bundling them all up. But we're going to do that because I hadn't done that before. So what did we put in this feature? Display alert message if present, and add .env for env variables, and add Google Tag Manager scripts. So that's the commit. I'm going to push that up to the server. That's great. And then now I want to get into some more code. So let's start to improve. Let's start to improve our code just a bit. First, we're going to add a couple new functions or methods to our user class. I'm going to copy and paste these things in here. So I kind of like there's this powerful feature of Rails where you can do callbacks on objects at certain points in the life cycle of the object. So before a user is created, we want to run this on before create. So if I just say before create, and this is another beautiful thing about RubyMine and IDEs, is it gives you autocomplete. So I just start typing in before, and then now I can see all of these different callbacks. So for before create, I'm going to say on before create. This is why I like these method names, is when I say on underscore and then the callback name, it says on before, you know that this is going to be a callback. And then we can say the same thing for after create. So before we create something, we want to make sure that the auth token value actually is populated. Right now it's going to be a static auth token that is created one time and is static. Eventually you would want to change that for a big application that you really want to be very secure, to rotate those tokens. But for now, it'll just be a static token. And then I have this other callback that says after a user is created, let's send them an email. So we're going to set up this email really quick. Before we actually create the code to send this email, I want to update our production configuration. So earlier we went into config environments and we looked at this development file here, and this is the configuration for your development environment. But when we're in production, we really want to ensure that these emails get sent. So I am going to paste this code at the bottom, and this basically is our mailer or email configuration. We're going to use SendGrid as the tool to send it. We're going to use an API key, and remember, this is part of our environment configuration. Now eventually you'd want to change the domain and the host, those 2 variables, to be the actual place where your web application is going to be hosted. But because this is a generic application here, we're just going to put example.com. So this will basically, this is all you have to do to get it to where Rails can send emails. You have to basically configure Action Mailer with the SMTP settings for how that will send. And of course we would need a real SendGrid API key instead of this one. But for now, for the purpose of this video, this is good enough. So cool. So now we should be able to send an email. All I'm going to do is go to Rails. So many times, guys, you need to get super comfortable with the Rails documentation. When I first learned how to program, it was back in the Java days, and all the time I was reading that documentation. So all we're going to do here is we're going to run this generator. And honestly, we're just going to kind of follow this. I know this is like maybe a mom and apple pie video because all we're doing is copying some other documentation. But I'm just trying to show you how you do things like this. So let's say Rails generate mailer user. That automatically creates a mailer class, this user mailer class, and then we also have a user mailer folder that we're going to put our views in here. So we will just say def welcome in our user mailer. That's great. Come back over to our documentation. Let's copy this really simple HTML file here. Let's see, what do we call the function in our user class? So we call it welcome email here. So we want to name this the same thing. And then we want to pass it a user. That's all good. I accidentally deleted my end keyword. And let's come here and listen, we want to create a file that's the exact same as that file. And this will be an HTML ERB template as well. And this is great. I'm going to go ahead and delete this URL here. We have a name. I'm just going to update this to kind of match our data model. Our user has a name and it has an email. So that's what we're going to display here. And notice the @user, that means it's an instance variable of this user mailer class. And remember, we set that right here. So everything's looking good to be able to run this. Now we can come back to our user model. And I can command click and it'll take me to my user mailer. If I want to go straight to that method, it'll take me there. And we pass it. We pass it that with user. So it's going to get the user there. Okay, let's go ahead and run this so that we can test this code. So actually real quick, let's come back here and let's look. All right, cool. So the way that we're doing this with user, it's going to be passed in as a param instead of an actual. I'm actually going to copy all of this and put it in my user mailer. Remember, we did not use this URL, so I'm going to delete that. But we want to send this to the user's email, and we say welcome to, I'm going to say Rails MVP starter. Woo. Okay, great, awesome. So we should be able to send this email now, and if we go back to our user, okay, user mail, welcome email. These params is just a way to send data into your mailer, or sometimes into controllers, where Rails just handles all of it magically. There's a lot of magic in Rails, and as you get comfortable with it, it won't scare you. But eventually, when you start out, sometimes it can be like, wow, how's this working? But don't be terrified. Don't be worried about that. You'll learn and pick it up as you go. So I am going to. We shouldn't need to restart anything here for this to work. Okay, I'm at my Rails MVP starter. I'm going to sign up. Harris +1. Okay, so my passwords didn't match. That's good. It's clear what's happening. So I'll make sure that my passwords match. Click sign up. Okay, great. So everything should be working. So the way that you can see this in development to make sure that you know it's working is you come to your terminal where your server's running, and because we're in development, it's not actually going to send the email. It will print it out to the screen. So one bug here is this from example.com. Let's just go look at our user mailer. Here it inherits from this application mailer. The default is from here. So let's just put a comment: to do change from email. Okay, that's good. I also noticed one bug, I think, in our view for our registration here. When I say new, okay, see how it says autocomplete email? We don't want to put autocomplete email into the name here. So I'm going to delete that, and that fixes that bug. Let me show you the bug real quick. I'm going to log out. I'm going to uncomment that. I'm going to say sign up, and it's wanting to put an email in there. Okay, and then when you put that email, then it auto-populates that one. That's not good. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to say home, sign up. Now it actually will try to autocomplete a name and not an email address. So we fixed that little bug. You're going to have tons of little bugs in your code as you start to learn how to do all this. But what did we do in this video? We learned how to create an email and send an email when a user is created. Part of the user experience with applications is you want to be communicating with your users. So you want to create, listen, all we did was just send a bare bones email, but you want your emails to be great. You want to figure out how to write great copy and put great design into these emails. Right now we're just stubbing it all out, but at some point we'll put some time into making this look great and also have great content. Thanks so much for watching. See you next time.